Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Black Tower Podcast, a Wheel of Time podcast.
And I am Andrew.
I am Daniel. And welcome to the show. This week, we are going to be dealing with a book review, as we often do on the first of the month. We do try to get through a book a month, which is super reasonable in our minds. So if you are following along, we are now hitting Winter's Heart, which, as most of you will be aware, is the 9th book in the 14 book series of the Wheel of Time.
Enjoy it, because there's only 5 more months of these book reviews to go. I actually know 6. Sorry, we haven't done New Spring. 5 of the core series, and then the prequel.
But it's going to be funny because we're going to put out the New Spring episode before we do Eye of the World, somehow.
You're going to
It's okay. When we go back in time and put out the New Spring episode, we will probably also start a new bubonic plague, and therefore it won't matter.
So let's get this spoiler warning out of the way before I forget, because I forget everything in my life. For those of you who have not read through the 9th book in Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time series, aka Winter's Heart, not art, Winter's Heart. Bleh. I don't know.
Oh, I thought you were just putting on an accent for a moment. If you haven't read through Winter's Heart.
I'm sorry, what? Spurred. You're at risk of being spurred.
Spurler.
So there are spoilers all the way up to and through the final page of Winter's Heart. If you haven't read all the way through that, or listened to it on audiobooks, or found a podcast that's already done their chapter by chapter reviews of it through Winter's Heart, however you're going through the series or back through the series, then there you are at risk of being spoiled, because we will be talking about anything and everything we wish to all the way through that last page. Hopefully. There might be 1 or 2 things on that, but we'll bleep them out.
Indeed. And we will try very, very hard not to go past this book. I don't think it's going to be that difficult, because I don't feel like this book is that much not about itself. I mean, there are a number of books that are very much foundation. This one, a lot happens, and like a lot that doesn't necessarily need to go into other stuff. So I think it's not going to be that difficult to keep this one to the book.
Being one of the slower books, the rescue's going to start barking away because she's in her kennel because she doesn't know how to behave. So she's in timeout. So that's what you might hear in the background. Hera's in timeout. Until I get done recording the podcast. It's her fault. Don't blame me, guys. It's her fault. But
it always is.
I think 2 of the favorite scenes from the entire series come from this book. Even though there's stuff in this book that nobody ever wants to think about. A whole arc that we've talked about a little bit last time. So as we know, at the end of Path of Daggers, Fael and Morgaze and 2 members of Cha Fael, Bane and Chad.
Morgaze, and
I think that's it, right? Because Berylene is the only one that doesn't get kidnapped.
Oh my gosh, what's her name?
Morgaze.
There's the queen.
Oh yeah,
whose name starts with an A.
So what's her name?
Amathera.
Amathera.
Not Amathera. That's the Panarch.
Oh! Who kills Asmodee? I don't know why I just got like that stuck in my head. Freaking Amadeus thing. Except Asmodee. Who killed Asmodee? What's her name? Oh. I'm looking it up too. Path of Daggers. I don't think it's an after because that's just POV. Alejandre? Yeah, draw. Yeah. Yes, Queen
Alejandra.
of
Yeah.
Galdean, Blessed of the Light, Defender of Garen's Wall, and 1,000 other titles. That's it. Thank you,
Indeed.
encyclopedia-wot.org, for your wonderful chapter summaries that allowed me to quickly go back. So
Yes,
yeah,
always.
at the end of Path of Daggers, technically the second to last chapter, even though the last chapter is just a quote, basically. Oh, not really a quote. Anyway, just narrator point of view. They all get cabnapped, captured / kidnapped. I'm trying to say like 2 words at once. I'm trying to be more efficient
Kidnapped.
with my language, I guess. Uh, yeah, just new words. It's how
I like it.
conjunctions
You're
started.
just creating new words,
It's a whole new conjunction junction.
right? I cannot do that.
There you
Nah,
go.
I
It's
can't.
all. That's
I
probably where
can't do it.
conjunctions came from. It's like a bunch of Western drunks, like in the old West, slurring their words, and people. It just became like just how people said things.
It's also funny because I mean, like that's I guess technically I just used a contraction, which is very similar. So I'm not mad that I did. But I did actually hear an interesting thing the other day that I had not specifically thought
Mm-hmm.
about in language. Actually, it was a while ago, but it was still within the last year. That like you can absolutely use contractions in a sentence without an issue as long as the last word you use in the sentence isn't the contraction. Now there are a couple that like do sort of there are a few that like make it out of there, like can't and isn't are kind of okay. Like I would like to go to the movies but I can't. That's
Yeah.
sort of fine. It still sounds a little bit wrong, but you should never end a sentence with like haven't or I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. My head hurts now. Anyway, um,
Anyway, right?
so before
Back
Winter's
to
Heart,
the
some of
episode.
the as I've come to love to do, the more technical details. Um, this is the first of the Wheel of Time
Yes.
books that was published in the 2000s. It was published November 7th of 2000 by Tor Books, and immediately rose to the #1 position on New York Times hardcover fiction bestseller list, making it the second Wheel of Time book to reach the #1 position. Of course, the first being Path of Daggers. And it remained there for the next 2 months. This book is 780 pages long. The title of the book is incorporated into the verse quoted from the Prophecies of the Dragon. That verse, of course, coming from the Corinthian cycle or the Prophecies of the Dragon, which
The seals that hold back night shall weaken, and in the heart of winter shall winter's heart be born, amid the wailing of lamentations and the gnashing of teeth. For winter's heart shall ride a black horse, and the name of it
that even
is
made the dog
death.
start whining. Like she was terrified.
Dude,
Yeah, I
that
wonder.
has winter's heart in it like 4 times. I didn't
I
actually
wonder
realize
where the
just
title
how
of the
many
book came
times it says
from,
the name of the
Daniel.
book.
Where did he come up with this one?
I think it was the
Street Arnold
Carthian
Schwarzenegger in it.
cycle. I'll,
so
I'll, I'll.
so it's the reference to Winter's Heart is also it refers to the winter that was created by the use of the bowl of the winds in the prior book. The kind of rebound from the book, the bowl seeming to have the effect they all wanted with restoring the weather, which it did, but it causes winter to severely compound on itself, making it the worst winter that anybody's ever seen in this age. And it's
Yes. Well, though I will also throw out there that like again, people talk about it being like really bad and whatnot, not necessarily in the books. I mean, they do definitely reference how cold it is and whatnot, but Robert Jordan actually like says through the characters and whatnot that it's not really worse than the heart of what winter would normally be. It's just that there's such a stark difference that they're like, all right, cool. So it should be winter right now. So we're going to make it winter. And then everybody's like, cool. So from the hottest summer we've ever had to the heart of winter.
And
great.
Nobody
this is terrible.
Fucking prepared in the sky. Nobody.
Like
everybody's like, holy shit.
Nobody. In fact, the fact that like they figure it out so well between the main characters is very book. Like in terms of, I mean, again, friends, you never see them do a day of work except for Joey when he's the butt stand-in. But like nobody else ever works. Same in this book. Like you don't actually really see them get coats and like do a bunch of winter preparations. They just kind of have it, and you're just like, all right, you can get away with that.
Hera is not happy at all. I don't know if you can hear her in the background.
Hera is very annoyed at them. She's like, Robert Jordan, I wanted to see more world building of them making. She says things her voice must be heard on the podcast. I don't know why you didn't give it to us.
Oh, yeah. She's a precious.
Well, it's a beautiful voice,
so. A little shit. But anyway, I'm sorry. Oh yeah.
Well, all good dogs are a combination.
So the book title is also considered to be a reference to the changes that are still ongoing within Rand. His hardening, his continuous endeavors to steel his soul against everything. Just we keep seeing Rand go further and further into this Darth Rand, but he's becoming more of just this brooding, cold-hearted anger rather than this Kylo Ren lashing out style anger kind of thing. So that does still happen from time to time.
Yes, because definitely it seems like Rand thinks that the answer to this is almost the same as the Shadar Logothians or the Eridolians, and that if you want to beat the Shadow, you have to be as hard and as steeled and as unflappable as the Shadow itself, which again is just one of those I'm sorry, what now moments where you're just like, I know he never actually really goes full Shadow.
Oh yeah,
but he gets darn close.
So the book has, of course, its prologue and then another 35 chapters, and it's important to give me 1 second. Let's go see if I can get her to calm down.
No worries.
She is ever more annoyed by the fact that my coworker is here washing dishes kindly for me, which I did not expect him to do. I was going to do that once I got done with this.
Of course.
Because it needs to be done. But she's pissed that she's not being paid attention to exclusively. Anyway. But it is important to remember that a lot of the events that happen in Winter's Heart are taking place simultaneously with the events that happen in the next book, Crossroads of Twilight. So that's one of the things that it gets... For me, it's hard to wrap my head around when it comes to reading a book series because you're thinking, oh, it should all be chronological and if things are happening at the same time, it should be in the same book. Well, there's so much shit happening at the same time, it can't all be in the same book.
Yeah, or the other issue is that, in this book, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more in just a moment, I'm sure, because I do like when we do this. The most that anybody's point of view happens in this book is Elaine, with under 25% of the book being her point of view.
Just under 25%.
And the smallest main character, if you will, is Min, coming in at 1.72% of the book. So it is definitely a situation where there is a lot going on. And if they tried to cram more things happening in the same book chronologically, you'd end up with 45 different viewpoints that are all like 0.5% long. So I do think it was smart, but at the same time, as you said, I completely agree that that it's hard to follow chronologically what's going on a little bit in this particular book and the next one, because so many things are actually happening.
Oh yeah, I mean, some other notable mentions for who gets how much of the book. Mogideon gets 0.27% of the book. She only gets 6% of chapter 35, which of course is the climax of the book and one of the most notable scenes behind Demise Wells in the last battle.
Yeah. My favorite is that chapter 35 has 21 points of view. Rand al'Thor has 3 different point of views in chapter 35. And he's not the only one. Like, there are at least 4 people who all have 3 points of view, and and a number of people who also have 2 points of view. That, again, you kind of look at that and go, why didn't you just give them 1 point of view and do it chronologically, or just do it all together or whatever? And then, of course,
you see the same breakdown
totally
for chapter 35
sense.
as I do. Yeah, the 21 points of view.
Yes.
It's from Rand to an Aes Sedai to another Aes Sedai to another Aes Sedai to a Forsaken to another Forsaken. It just bounces from Rand to Forsaken to Aes Sedai, back to Rand, back to Forsaken, back to Aes Sedai.
Yeah, my favorite is that, I mean, like, again, it shows you up here, the breakdown as well. And between Timna, Barmelin, Eben, Osengar, and Mogideon, you get all of that together, mind. Literally, those 5 characters just by themselves. 5 characters, 2 of which we actually know pretty well. They get 1% of the book combined, which is just ridiculous. I love it.
But the interesting thing about this book is this is one of the few books, at least from what I can remember, of the last couple statistics we've looked at. So the book has a prologue and 35 chapters. But even with the 21 different POVs in chapter 35, it still has fewer different POVs than chapters. There's only 29 different points of view in this entire book. So we only see things from the eyes of 29 different characters throughout the entire book. Normally, the POV is the same as or beyond the chapter count. I believe. I know it was the case for the last book, I believe. Hold on. Let me go put her sheet over her kennel and maybe she'll stop barking. And I need to refill my drink anyway, so this is a rum and madness break. I'm sorry to do this again.
Fair enough. No, it's all good. Go get mad.
Okay. I put her sheet over her cage, so maybe she'll be quiet. We'll see. If not, we'll just press on.
We'll see what happens.
So where was I? Oh, yeah, I think we just finished talking about the different POVs.
Indeed. So now I think we were actually going to get into the meat and potatoes of the book.
So I guess Perrin's arc has the easiest kind of overview to it. It's just Perrin and his people chasing the Shido, trying to catch up to free Fael and all the others.
I still love. I think it might have been Tigraine or Ran by Default, who both of them post 1,000 Wheel of Time memes a day, which I'm not actually complaining.
Yeah.
It's a lot, but most of them are funny. And one of the ones that I saw was, Path of Daggers, like at the end of Path of Daggers, being like, "Oh boy, can't wait to get to Winter's Heart and see Perrin rescue Fael." And it never happens. Just never happens.
The entire book,
he spends the entire book just
angry
chasing
at the fact
the
that he's getting closer but not fast enough, and constantly have to be reminded that he has a hole.
Yep. And the fact that Barreline won't leave him
and
fuck
her included,
alone.
having to continuously remind him that he has to let his army rest or they will all die, because it's the middle of fuck off winter.
Yep.
That's Perrin's story for the entire fucking book.
Oh, Perrin.
And I think we do get to see a fair number of a fair number of things from Fael as she's in the Shido camp. That's where we get scenes where she's wanting Bane and Cheyenne to help them escape, and they're like, "No, we're bound." As Gai Shin will see you in a year and a day. Because even though the Shido have no honor and don't know how to follow their own traditions, we're still noble Aiel, and and I think, is this where we start seeing there's that male Aiel that's basically hitting on Fael the entire time? It has the thing for her that leads to the thing that happens in the not this book. Yeah.
Sure. Let's stop it there. And
let's say we talked about it, but not actually do it. So yeah, that's pretty much the entirety of the Perrin Fael side. It's a lot shorter when we talk about it like this, but in the books, it is every fucking where. Sorry, flashback shivers. It's one of those things, like, it's the story arc itself isn't horrible. It's just the fact that it's, I get in story time wise, it's not really drug out that very long. But in terms of physically reading,
honestly, I think, I think the funniest part is that this is one of the moments where, I mean this happened in The Lord of the Rings, for example, a lot, because that was definitely one of the series that I actually read first and then watched the films of. And there were a number of things that just felt like they dragged on for way too long in the book that got wrapped up relatively quickly in the movies. And I was like, oh my God, that's so much better. And so if they end up going ahead and doing like a, I don't know, 5 or 6 episode arc with Perrin and Fael, or Perrin going after Fael and Fael doing, this stuff. Also, obviously, the reason that it would be that long would be that it would be interspersed with
God you said that. I was like,
a bunch of other things. I
cannot sit down and watch 5 to 6 hours consecutively, like of episode after episode of Perrin running through the snow chasing after Fael. No fucking joke.
Yeah, no, I'd kill myself. But no. No, but like one episode or maybe 2 worth of content for this particular story arc that's, spread out between 5 or 6 episodes just because it's interspersed into the storylines of other people. That seems like it would be very reasonable, even though, again, the books make it seem like it's going to be a season and a half, 2 seasons long, and I just can't do that. I can't do it. if they take 2 seasons to go ahead and do this at all, if they even keep it, because this is one of the most popular things to just throw out the window when people are like, all right, what do you think they should cut? People are like, Fael's kidnapping.
Yeah. Now,
all
Rafe,
of it. Just get rid of
Sarah,
all of it. Fuck
other
all of
figures
it.
of the writing room. Amazon, Sony, everybody working on this project. If by some miracle, either now or in the future, when we get close to this part, you are listening to this, you have a very, very rare opportunity at some seriously good comedy for the TV series. To take where this is going on, and it's another character story. Maybe we're watching Elaine and Camelin or whatever. And you flash up a screen that says, meanwhile, and you just show Perrin on the horse with Barrelane and the army behind him walking through the snow. And then it just goes back to Elaine, then maybe to another character, and it says, meanwhile, and just show the exact same fucking scene of Perrin and Barrelane in the army walking through the snow again. I think fans.
That would be really funny.
No,
I don't think that this is going to be that kind of series, but at the same time, like, that sounds hilarious. Or my favorite thing would be if they actually do just cut it out, but at some point later on, when they're doing like the content of, Crossroads of Twilight or something like that, or even, the next book after or the next book after or whatever, they literally just at some point throw in a line about Perrin being worried that Fael would get kidnapped. That would just be amazing. I would love that so much. If they just were like, we know that this is true, and this is for all of you who read the books, because anybody who's just watching this isn't going to get that we just totally cut this thing, and that we just didn't deal with it. But if Perrin just says something at some point about like, oh man, I was so worried that you would get kidnapped, or like, this is like that time that you got kidnapped, and then they don't do anything with
Sarah,
it again.
You have read the books like, over 30 times? When they get to the point where y'all are discussing, and they get to the point where like, all right, Winter's Heart, or even the end of Path of Daggers, and you go, and they say, okay, now we get to the point where Fael is kidnapped. You should just stand up, go to the board, and write, Fael kidnapping equals nope, move on. Please. For the love of all the creator has ever created.
Yes.
Anyway.
That being said, I think we've actually spent about as long talking about not putting Fael's kidnapping in as Fael was actually kidnapped.
I'm cutting half of it out now. It'll still be shorter than the fire. Anyway, so from there we move on, kind of eyes back into Camelin with Elaine continuing to do what she was doing in the last book, with trying to solidify her hold to the Lion Throne and get rid of the rebellious nobles. That as is the thing I love the thing that I think is so great about the story arc for Elaine returning to Camelin and taking her hold of the Lion Throne is we got to see a little bit of the Game of Houses with Rand when he first arrives in Camelin, and everybody thought that he was a lord, and they were right, but they didn't know they were right, and they technically weren't right yet, but they were. Anyway, we get to see the actual full onslaught of the Game of Houses with Elaine, because to me, this is the art with Elaine that makes me respect her a lot more than I kind of already do. Before this, she's still that kind of naive young girl that you see is trying, but she's still got those naive tendencies. And then she comes back to Camelin and goes to take her throne. And you go,
yep. And this is where she's in her element. Because, of course, we've been seeing her out and about doing things that she wasn't really taught to do. And all of a sudden, she's back. Exactly what she's been trained to do her entire life, and she's just
also kind of funny. And she is riding a horse called Fireheart, who is a tall black gelding.
Correct.
He's described more in in Crossroads of Twilight, chapter 10, but that's not really a spoiler. But it's the horse that Elaine rides in Andor, which I think is just
No,
funny
really.
mentioning back to the Corinthian cycle passage. Yes. And she's
Yes.
accompanied by Saritha and her warder Ned Yarman, 8 of the Queen's Guard, including a couple people that are named but we don't actually know much about. And Brigitte recruits mainly women as guards.
And they do this because in this particular book, Elaine is almost assassinated, which is crazy.
But as things go on and you get to learn more about the Game of Houses, it becomes less and less crazy to think about. Because
no, it's not really crazy in the story overall. It's just kind of crazy how it happens and then how she gets out of it. It's a pretty sweet scene to watch.
It's really cool.
Or read.
Do you remember what chapter that is?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because chapter 7 is whenever
it's pretty near the end of the book.
It's, I think, the first chapter where it talks about her, being in Camelin in this book. I think it's her first. Yeah, it's her first.
Yes, she gets to Camelin in this book, which is one of the reasons that she made it to Camelin in the end of her point of view.
And that's whenever she. Yeah. Well, because the last one is whenever she was supposed to declare that she was there to take hold. Like, Path of Daggers was supposed to be a good setup for the Fael kidnapping arc and for the Elaine taking the Lion Throne arc. So I think she made it there and declared. Yeah.
Which is funny because neither of them actually happen in this book. Both of them get forwarded a lot, but neither of them actually happen. But definitely Elaine doing a bunch of stuff in Camelin to secure the Lion Throne. Matt doing a lot of stuff in Abu Dar, and Rand doing a lot of stuff in Farmatting. That is like the central parts of the book. And so I love how in this description here on Wheel of Time Wiki,
what.fandom.com
or what fandom, I should say. They give it one line where they're like, Elaine Tricand attempts to solidify her grip on the Lion Throne and put down rebellious nobles. Yeah, it doesn't say that she almost gets killed. It doesn't say that like a bunch of other things happen where she just outmaneuvers people like a boss. It's just like, hey, it's Elaine tries to solidify her stuff. Also, something else happens mostly, I mean, like it's mostly in the next book that like it all gets set up. But the guy who saves her life gets made a captain and one of the leaders of the armed forces that she has under Brigitte. And he is a right pompous ass, and I love it. He's so great.
They also don't talk
Captain Mellar, what would we do without
you? Where did Rand send them? But Rand, this is where Rand has sent 29 of the captured Soldam and 5 to Maine. I think to the tower in exile, or did you send them to Camelin?
Yes, he
sent them as a... Okay.
He sent them to Camelin. And he sent them sort of as a gift, he says, to Elaine.
Because she spends the whole time.
Like, what are you doing? Come on.
Trying to convince the Soldam that they can channel. And then send them back to the shop.
Yeah, though Elaine's not really doing a whole lot of this. It's almost exclusively Nynaeve and the other kinswomen. Because they're like, guys, We know this about you. Also, Damani, have some backbone. Stop being such pushovers all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it works too well on one of them.
Yeah. But this is where you see some of Elaine's political maneuvering. The results of years of being groomed to be the ruler of a nation, a large nation. Because she spends all this time trying to convince the Soul Dam that they can channel, and then says, well, okay, you can go back to your empire. In the hopes that the Shan-Chan will learn of this,
right?
And it will cause horrendous ripples throughout their society. But another shocking thing happens.
Yep.
There is a domain called Olivia, Alivia, who had been collared since she was 13 or 14 years old and is now over 400 years old. And so we remember this.
Yup.
Egwene is stronger than Elaine. Nynaeve is stronger than Egwene. So Gideon is on the level of her and Nynaeve are pretty much on the same level. Just Gideon has more experience.
Pretty close.
Olivia is stronger than Nynaeve. This is the domain that is
and not by an insignificant margin.
Like they look at her and they're like, oh, holy shit.
By her. Yep. It's also funny because they meet a couple of Windfinders before this, definitely. But there's a couple of not even full Windfinders, but just apprentices who are ridiculously strong in the power as well. And they also intimidate Nynaeve. And in this book, actually, Nynaeve is called to go and teach them as part of the bargain that they made with the Athan Mier for basically their knowledge of the Bowl of the Winds. And in one of those fights, or in one of those teachings, they have sort of like a mock shield fight. And Nynaeve gets her butt kicked twice by these other two, or by this one other apprentice, and it's hilarious. The whole scene is so funny.
There's so many really good scenes that happen in this book, and they're so sadly overshadowed in the grand scheme when you think back to Winter's Heart by the annoying arc that we all have to sit around and deal with and watch. And it's literally like the taint on Sidene, which is ironic for what happens in the book. That it just overshadows things. Like there's so many little good things that happen that do further the world building, they do further the plot, they do fill in little details about different characters and organizations and the way the world is interacting, not only in general, but also through this newfound harsh freaking bukkake of a winter. That's basically what it is. There you go. There's your analogy for this episode. Bukkake of a winter. I'm weirdly
what a
proud and ashamed
terrible reference of that. But I see it.
Like oh,
good. That's all we really wanted.
But yeah, so we get to see Elaine be the political badass. So we've already seen Nynaeve be the ingenuitive kind of thinking outside the box, willing to try things, do everything she can to heal people and make people feel better, too stubborn to give up. Healing kind of factor we've seen from her. We've seen Avienda be the bastion of morality, I guess is the best word to say it, to try to keep people on the straight and narrow, to say, yeah, we could do this, but that's really dirty. Just like a really good, like, I don't know, guideline for morality. I feel like there's a better way I can say that, and I don't have the words in English to say it right now, which isn't really that big of a surprise either. But so far, we hadn't got to see Elaine really shine anywhere other than her ability to use the power, like whenever she was weaving platforms of air to do tightrope walking with Val and Luca's circus. Yeah, I know Hera. It's so horrible. It really is. She is so upset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But now we get to see Elaine, like you said, in
It's the
her
worst.
element, and we finally get to see Elaine do more, shine in more than just her ability to make Angreal and that sort of thing, which is really good because it lets us see Elaine as
Indeed.
the amazing character she is outside of being Aes Sedai, which is the same thing we get to see. Yeah.
Yes. And so much of her story arc up until this point has been centered almost exclusively around being a novice and then accepted and then Aes Sedai, as
Yeah,
well
and it's
as
so
tied
nice
up
to
in
see
her feelings
these
for
characters
Rand.
shine outside of being Aes Sedai. We already saw it with Egwene whenever she was with the Aiel Wise Ones,
Yes.
and even when she was a captive of the Shan-Chan.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it with Nynaeve before when she first started out on her journey, and just by the pure fact that most of the time she couldn't channel when she wanted to, up until what was it? The last book was it Path of Daggers? Yeah.
I
So there's
believe it is
that.
Path of
And
Daggers where
then
she gets over her
Avienda,
black.
who is never, I mean, I'm sure she's channeled, but never in any really significant way until she starts training now. Um,
Oh no, no, no. Do remember that in the last book, or actually was it 2 books ago? It might have been 2 books ago, if I'm remembering correctly, that she creates a gateway, steps through the gateway, and unweaves the gateway. And the Aes Sedai
oh,
freak
yeah.
the fuck
That is
out.
true. I meant before she started like training with the wise ones.
Oh man.
Is what I meant.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she's
But she was a
definitely a
badass
huge
before the power,
badass
and then
before
she
she
gets the
actually
power, and she's
becomes an
like,
apprentice.
she's just even more of a badass. Man, what a woman. I wish she would just come and sweep me off.
Which is so funny again. Because she actually gets mentioned a lot as like Elaine or Egwene or Nynaeve or whatever, um will regularly be like, and then Avienda went for her belt knife, which was weird because she could have just murdered them with the power. And you're just like, yeah, she also learned for how many years that the way that you stop problems is you stab them with a knife. It's gonna take her a while to really
She's got to
code
readjust to
switch.
a new way
Like,
of life. And
it's
to be fair,
okay.
her initial way of life isn't exactly all that wrong for books. I
Exactly.
mean, I wouldn't recommend going out and settling your disputes by stabbing people with your
Right.
belt knife. I mean, on one hand, it will settle the dispute, but on the other hand, I'm pretty sure you wind up in jail. So, yeah.
Yeah, you'll probably create a new
Yeah.
dispute. One that is not in your favor.
But moving on from Elaine, we do get, like you mentioned earlier, the return of our boy Matt,
Mm-hmm.
who is presumably, I think, for the most part, healed
Yes.
from his injuries. From being, or is he still healing most of?
No,
Okay.
he spends most of this book hurt. Yeah. He
Yeah,
complains about his
that's right.
hip pretty
So he got
much
crushed underneath
constantly
a
in this
wall.
book.
Well, not crushed, but fucked up. Yeah, a building fell on the quote
A
unquote
building fell
luckiest
on him.
dude in the series. So would hate to see what happened if he wasn't lucky. Um,
Well, no, no, no. Do remember that the building
I mean,
fell on him, which would kill anyone else. So it fell on the luckiest guy, and the luck
yeah,
part was that he didn't
that's
immediately die. He
no,
just
yeah,
gets his like leg and hip messed up. It's also funny because like I swear it's going to be absolutely insane and incredible if and let me make sure that I say this out loud. Barney, I wish no harm would come to you. I am not actually saying this as a hope, but like at the same time, remember when Luke, like Mark Hamill, got in a car accident or a motorcycle accident, and that's why they had to go ahead and put the thing where he gets attacked by the Yeti in Empire Strikes Back? I feel like Robert Jordan put a good place for the actor who plays Matt to get hurt here, like naturally in the books. So Barney, if you're gonna break your leg or something, make sure it's during.
I'm not gonna lie for a split second
because you're not.
It didn't even register Barney Harris. I thought you were talking on like for some reason about Barney Fife from the Andy Griffith Show, and I was like very confused for a second. I was like, "What does Barney have to do with any of this?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm just dumb." Okay. Yeah, it took me a second.
I'm glad that we got you around.
You had me in the first half.
It's all good. But yeah. So as I said, Barney, if you're gonna get hurt, make it Path of Daggers, because they can yeah. work around you.
You get a whole book's worth of shooting time to recover enough to the point Matt recovers.
Indeed. And then Perrin, since we're just going to cut out the entire kidnapping scene, I think you get all of Winter's Heart.
I mean, it might suck for your paycheck, but
be fine.
Yeah, by that season, I mean,
I think by season 7 minimum, I think you'll be fine. Anyway, but Matt, our boy in Abu Dar, is still very much under the thumb of Tylan. And now he's got an extra thumb on top of that, which is the Seanchan. And he's basically boned.
I know. I figured.
I did do that on purpose.
So Matt meets a very, very special individual that he's been petrified of meeting ever since he got his Ashandre. The same question he's asked every woman he has ever talked to ever since then finally comes into being in Winter's Heart. And she has an entire chapter in her POV. The first one being chapter 14, What a Veil Hides. Yeah.
Since the Shadow Rising, this has been 5 books in the making.
It's crazy to think that long that
Jesus.
Like, hey, you're gonna meet this girl, and she's gonna be your wife. You're gonna get married. There's no question about it. It's just what's gonna happen, which has an interesting effect later on in the book.
Yep.
But so we get the scene, and I love how the scene that we see with Tuon in the very beginning. We learn a little bit about her chief maid and blah, blah, blah. But then it goes on and she sees an albatross and she's like, oh, it's an omen of victory. And from the start, we know Tuon, and not just Tuon, but the Seanchan in total put a lot of emphasis on omens. And that becomes a never-ending thing, especially with Tuon. And Tuon is our way to see a lot of the Seanchan culture.
Yes and no, because again, it is definitely true that Tuon does, and it very much seems like the royal family, like the Empress and the Blood, put a lot of stock in superstition and omens. You know, depending on what you want to classify that as, if you will. And she sees omens everywhere. It's kind of ridiculous how often she talks about omens, and it starts out right, as you said, right from the beginning, where she sees the albatross and she's like, boom, omen. And you're like, what? Since when has that been an omen anywhere in these books? And you're like, oh, Seanchan. All right, so cool. We're good.
There's a very interesting dynamic behind Tuon. And
yes. Well, and it's also so fascinating because up until this point, I mean, literally we know that from the very beginning, the Dark One is the enemy. Like they put that out immediately. It's not a question. There's no like, oh, we get like some big bad and then we find out that there's a bigger big bad. Like, no. In this story, we actually get a big huge bad who's going to destroy the world that we meet like almost right away. Not necessarily the actual character of, but like the idea of. And then we get this like much smaller by comparison, but like also very problematic, smaller bad later on. And it's the Shan-Chan. And they're a very, very, very good example of like the D&D lawful evil alignment. Because their society is so structured and so put together. It just also has some really messed up things in it, like Damane, for example. And the fact that you can buy people.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much we learn. Like, chapter 14 is a huge world building chapter for the Shan-Chan. Because we learned so much.
Oh, yeah. And this is the second time where we actually meet a Shan-Chan person who we then get to know past just sort of the initial sort of like, again, evil, but like also very civil, like kind of weird thing that the Shan-Chan have going on. Because we already met Eginin with Nynaeve and Elaine. And then now we meet Tuon, and most of the, like, obviously we do also meet Turok. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but we don't really get to know him. Overall, the Shan-Chan are just these like very faceless entities who are just bearing down on Ranland and making trouble for everybody. And then we meet Eginin and then Tuon, and we see these two very interesting examples of like what humanizes the Shan-Chan. And it's very interesting to see those two characterizations because they're two very different characterizations that do a really good job of humanizing. We get to see
so much about the nuances of Shan-Chan culture. Because when Tuon is getting dressed, she asks for a veil instead of her normal lace cap. And the difference is the lace cap marks her as the daughter of the 9 moons. However, the veil only marks her as one of the blood.
Yep.
And this sends the message that she has done something that she feels bad for. And nobody has to mention it. Nobody has to say anything. Everybody knows what it means that she's wearing the veil instead of the lace cap. And what she felt bad for was she ordered one of her domain beaten the night before and regrets it. And feels that she has to make amends and, orders the domain she had beaten to be given treats. And it's revealed that she had her beaten because she ordered the domain to tell her her future and just didn't like what she heard. And later on, she's like, well, she can't control what she saw. Yep. I was a dick. My bad. I was kind of drunk. We came in swinging around and we're sorry. We might have overreacted. And the thing is, nobody says anything but Musingi, who's the captain of the Death Watch guards, notes that she is wearing the veil and only assigns 2 guards to her. And another fun fact is revealed in here outside of the book series, where it talks about how their armor is lacquered blood red and nearly black green. And nearly black green, it sounds exactly like the color Charleston green, which is a paint color commonly tied to Charleston, South Carolina, where Robert Jordan is from. So, and that's of course it's like the second or third largest harbor port in the U.S., I think. So it makes sense there. But something interesting too is there's a dozen Ogier gardeners that are standing guard.
Yeah. Dude, this is the craziest part where like the Ogier are so different in Shan-Chan culture. Like so different. I mean, like obviously they are still called gardeners. And so I imagine that there is definitely something about their society that is the same between this side of the ocean and the other side of the ocean. that they do just absolutely inherently, if you will, have a love for plants and trees and naturally growing things. But at the same time, I mean, like, these Shan Ogier are like ready to throw down. They are not the overly patient, very ent-like creatures that we have met on this side of the Aryth Ocean. They are like, no, we carry big-ass axes around, and we will cut you.
Yeah.
Don't test us. And you're like, oh, shit. Wow. All right. All of these Ogier are, like, loyal in the midst of a battle. Like...
But it goes on, and they talk about how she needs to make contact with the Dragon Reborn so that he can kneel before the Crystal Throne, because in their version of the Prophecy of the Dragon, the Essenic cycle, which we've talked about in a previous episode, that's what they prophesy, is that the Dragon Reborn will kneel before the Crystal Throne. Yep.
Which is sort of true.
Yeah, Anath, who is Tuon's
just
truth
in
speaker,
not the way that they think.
Which is basically like, well, I mean, it's a chief maid. No, it's not chief maid, but it's like a servant. But their whole point is to keep the nobility humble. So whenever they fuck up, like Anath is the one that gives Tuon, as the daughter of the Nine Moons, as a member of the Blood, penance for fucking up. Because she even mentioned that Anath's last penance that she gave Tuon left her crying for days. And so when I read that, I'm like, what kind of fucking dynamic is going on with the Shan-Chan? That you literally have somebody, it's a very noble title to be a true speaker.
Well,
because your whole job is to punish the nobles when they act out.
Well, and the funniest thing is that, okay, so there's this funny post that is more of a thought experiment than anything. But there's a post that I saw ages ago. It's an old post where it's like, if I ever become a supervillain, my council that I run everything by and help me plan things and whatnot will absolutely, without a doubt, contain an 8-year-old in it. Because if there's an 8-year-old who can figure out a thing that stops our plan, we won't do it. We need that common sense voice, that I'm not actually thinking about it so many steps ahead that I'm tripping myself up in the present voice that just says, well, why do you make the exhaust vents that large? Or, why are we doing these things that are so obviously exploitable? And the answer is, as I said, I mean, like, the supervillains and large corporations and, the Shan-Chan society and whatnot have so many different, like, bureaucratic things and blah, 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 that it's so easy to get yourselves bogged down in, well, I'm the daughter of the Nine Moons, and so whatever I say goes, and I just get to do whatever I want all the time, always, because I'm of the Blood, and I'm, like, second to the Empress of the Blood. And I think it's really great on some level that the Shan-Chan recognize that that's a really messed up dynamic, and they're like, cool, so we're going to have somebody in place who is the 8-year-old on your council and is going to make sure that you're not doing stupid things just because you're second to the Empress. When you act out and do stupid stuff, they're going to look at you and be like, Tuon, go fuck yourself.
She even talks about the last man to sit on the Crystal Throne was almost like 1,000 years ago book time. And Alguin, and she even recalls that he let his truth speaker slap him in public. Which is Sophia or something like that. SOE''FEIA. Sophia, something like that. Which is the old tongue for truth. Yeah, it's old tongue for truth speaker.
I think it's Sophia.
But Anath also cautions Tuon not to let the Dragon Reborn know how dangerous she is now, which is a reference to High Lady Soroth now having the domination bands, which is the male version of the the Idom. It's the same thing that we saw Mogideon staring at in the World of Dreams in the palace. Was it the World of Dreams she fought?
Yep.
That's what it was.
They were actually in the palace.
It's a male version, like you said, of the Idom. It was made during the breaking. Now, the woman. No.
Or in Falma?
I think it was in the palace in.
I don't remember which one they were actually. Were they in
wherever they captured Mogideon? So
yeah,
basically, like they're like the Idam, except they don't prevent the man from going insane, and eventually he'll be able to control the women.
Correct. And in fact, they kind of make the sisters go, or the female channelers go insane.
Eventually, he can control the women as well as she is controlling him, and two women just reduces how quickly that happens, but it also lessens the control. So it's the domination band is like the Idam, but with serious drawbacks. In short, but it's made of a material like Quillendar, but it's not Quillendar. It's a material like it, so nobody knows what it is.
Yep.
But that happens. Then it goes to Matt, and he is with Aludra in her wagon with old Valen Lucas Circus again. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And he's trying to convince her to tell him about the fireworks because it's Matt. Why not? And she's giving him shit about like his clothes and shit. And he's like, well, Tylen got rid of my old clothes while I was in bed with broken leg and ribs. And now this is the only thing I have that was mine is the black scarf, my hat, and the medallion. We get more instances where Matt, thinking of Rand and Perrin, puts a rush of colors in his head, and we know Rand and Perrin are experiencing the same thing because they've been apart too long. Beslan is still hanging around with Tom and Matt and Luca and the others. Luca's still doing the same thing, flirting with every woman he sees, even though he's married.
Which is hilarious because the last time that we saw Val and Luca, he absolutely promised on everything that he held dear, according to him, that he was going to find and even marry her. Just shows you how solid Val and Luca is to his word.
Taking some of the, I guess, lesser appropriate lessons, but hilarious because he's a kid and that's acceptable lessons from Matt and the other guys from the band, because he's hanging out with 5 beautiful women, and Matt starts making comments or at least thoughts where he's like, I can't even do that shit. What the fuck?
And he's then you're like, dude, you've been doing that shit the whole time.
It's like he's a kid. Women think
Where
he's
innocent.
Where do
you think he's learning
so
it?
They go to head back to the palace in chapter 15. Which I overlooked a very important thing. This is the namesake for the chapter, but I'll go back to it. Oliver can't wait to get back to Rizal, who, as we remember, is a very well-endowed, voluptuous, buxom lady that stole Oliver away so that Tylen could, I believe, steal her first time from Matt. With Matt. It wasn't her first time, but her first time with Matt.
Correct.
And as always, the dice start tumbling in Matt's head again.
Correct.
But Matt has been asking about Bell Founders, which those of us that have already read the series, we know what this is for, and it's very exciting to see it start. But Aludra basically tells Matt that she will tell him all the secrets. Or actually, no, she's looking for a Bell Founder. Sorry. It's not Matt.
Yes, why she says why would she need she tells him that she will tell him all of the secrets of fireworks if he can tell her
Yeah.
why she would need a bell founder. And he's like, "What the actual fuck is a bell founder?"
Yeah.
And she's like,
I love
"That's what I thought. Come back when you know." And then he goes to a bell maker,
really
and
not.
we're all like,
I
"Bro,
love
that's
the
not even
note
the
that they
same
put
thing."
on that one sentence in the encyclopedia-wot.org. I'm not going to read it out because it gives away what it is. Yeah. I don't know if you're looking at the same thing I am, are you?
But it is a good sentence.
Okay. I just love that note. And it's like, a bell founder could probably also blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you don't say.
Yep.
But while he is in Elbudar and they're walking, and it's Tom and Beslin and Oliver all there, they see the heads of the mistress of ships and the master of blades are sitting on poles. They've been executed for rebellion. Inside the gates, the streets are packed with Shan Chan immigrants. And Matt, once again, gets attacked by a golem. Mm-hmm.
Every time you turn around, this butthole's getting attacked by.
And of course, that's where we also find out that the High Lady Suroth is living in the Teresian Palace here in Abu Dar, which Matt would, of course, know, being a guest of Thailand. But he burns this golem on both hands and the face. And then there's a man that shouts at the end of the alley that they're fighting in. The golem flees through a small hole in the wall. And the old man walks up. And then Matt says he saw something like that in Shadar Logoth. And it's referenced from the Eye of the World, chapter 19, where Mordeth fled in a similar manner, but they wouldn't be connected like that. They're not the same thing. But the old man is Noel Charain. And the Shan Chan kicked him out of his room in the Golden Ducks. And Matt says, I'll find you a room in the Teresian Palace. Which is what you do to the strange old man that just shows up out of nowhere. Turns out to be a good turn of things.
It is when he's the guy who saved your life, and you want more of that.
I love how his whole description on the encyclopedia wt.org is an old man in Evudar. That's his character. I mean, you're not wrong.
Yep. That is what he is at this point.
So that yeah, go ahead.
Yep. And then things with Thailand get a little crazy in terms of like the Shan Chan and Tuan specifically promises Thailand a bunch of great stuff. Well, she promises her a lot more kingdom. Now, I mean, she'll definitely be still very much a vassal of the Empress, but she promises that Thailand will have way more power than she does now. And then Suroth goes and takes her off on a not a drag car. Oh gosh, what are their names?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
The flying creatures.
Keep talking and I'll Google it and figure it out, and I'll let you know. Because I can't.
They take a trip out to see how far her control will extend. And
yes, you have
Rockin.
Oh, Rockin.
Rockin.
You have To Rockin.
That's what
you have Morat Rockin.
Yes. To Rockin. Yes, and they actually take a Morat Rockin because they're the big like travel ones. The To Rockin are the scout units. But yeah, so they go out to do that, and this gives Matt the opportunity that he has been looking for to escape both Tylin and the Shan Chan. And they do this by having a somewhat chance-ish meeting with some of my favorite characters in the whole series. Bail Doman, who we haven't seen for a while, and Aginin, who's been MIA since Falma. And they set up this whole plan using Tom and Julin and a woman that Julin has fallen in love with, as well as Aginin and Doman and Matt, and the red arms that are there. And in the midst of this escape attempt, Matt is actually set upon by the woman who currently loves him, and the woman who she knows about ahead of time, going to be married to.
Because our initial meeting where Tuon is angry with Suroth because Suroth is like, the city's safe, but Matt was just attacked. That's when Anath chews out Tuon, and Suroth is like, what the fuck? Because obviously Suroth doesn't know who Anath is. But Tuon inspects Matt and sees the ring that he's wearing, the Fox Starling Ravens, which was a part of Lydia's foretelling that was mentioned in chapter 14. So she knows from that moment who he is.
Which is, of course, why in their first meeting,
like, I'll
she
buy your
Tylin
plaything here, and Tylen's
buy
like, he's
Matt.
free. He's not for sale. And Tuon's like, yeah.
Except that he's not like,
oh, okay, well, let's go look at some maps.
All. He's
and all the women
mine. And for about 8 seconds, Matt
and then the pink ribbons come.
feels safe.
It's funny. That part's actually funny. Like, yeah. But yes, yeah, so then
oh my god, that party is really funny.
The escape attempt.
Yes, and unfortunately, Tylin comes back early and sees Matt trying to leave, and Matt, at her urgence, because she does know that it's over and that she has to let Matt go, Matt ties her up and leaves her under her bed. And then he goes out to the stables where he is set upon by Tuon, and he ties her up. And then he hears who she is, and he goes, she's coming with us.
You see everything building, because there's a day where Matt goes into Tylin's quarters, and Tuon is there examining the Ashandre. And she's like, I'm going to buy it. Huh?
Mashandare.
There's no
Mashandare.
Yeah, there's no M in it.
That's the spear.
Yep, Ashandari.
Really? Weird. I totally
there might have been at some point, but sometimes the spelling of things changes from book to book. Yeah. But and Tuona's like, I'm gonna buy it. True. And Matt's like, no, you're fucking not. And she's like, and that's where Matt's like, I'm running into her a lot more often than should fucking happen. And and you know that, and we know as the readers that Tuon is doing it because of the foretelling that she got. We don't really learn about the ring part of it being something that was a part of the foretelling. It's not a major spoiler, so I'm not that worried about it. But you don't actually learn about that until Knife of Dreams, the actual specifics of it. But it's not that big of a spoiler because she does take note of it in Winter's Heart. So,
correct.
Yeah. And this is all happening. He's running into her all the time.
She does.
While he's literally smuggling clothes and gold out of the palace back to the Wandering Woman to try to get the fuck up out of here.
Yep. But he does. He does successfully. Well, we see him get to the point where they're leaving Abu Dar. We don't actually see him leave until later. But it basically says that he escapes in this book. We don't watch the scene of it happening, but they're like, yeah, he gets out.
Yeah.
And then we have the last story arc, which is the one that ends the book. And this one's all about Rand.
Every time any other door in my house opens and closes, my computer room door shakes and it makes me almost shit all over the place. Yeah, I don't plan on it. But well, so don't do we haven't talked about Rand really yet.
Good.
And before we get into the culmination at the end of the book.
Correct.
And this is the second, not the number one scene, but the second biggest scene from the book, in my opinion, we should talk about first, that happens in chapter 12 of Lily and Winter. When finally the three amigos, or amigas, I guess, as they're all female, are in the same place, and Rand is in the same place. And they decide it's finally time to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the something you thinking about. It's it is, but it is. So
well, it is.
They all come
not
to
all
him,
three,
and they have this whole conversation about.
Well, one of them does.
Nynaeve and Lan are already with Rand, and that's whenever Rand tells him, "Hey, don't." Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's what he came here for. He actually comes here in disguise with Min to talk to Nynaeve and talk her into coming with him to go do something crazy. Because she's the only Aes Sedai powerful enough. Well, the only person that who can channel that he trusts, who is strong enough to do what they want to do.
Not as of chapter
12. We do. I mean, he's been talking about it. He says to Min that he's going to go do it. And then he picks up both of the keys to the Choden Call. So he's definitely been talking about it, but like, it's definitely one of those situations where the first time I read this book, I thought that it was just crazy talk. And I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about, Rand? Going and cleansing Sidene? Okay, great, idiot. And then he like comes here and he talks to Nynaeve. And the best part is she has basically the same reaction. Where in their conversation, she's like, how would you even do that?
Why? In the book in chapter 12?
Stop, idiot.
I didn't think that happened.
He talks to Min about it before this, because I think it's in the end of Path of Daggers that he says he's going to do it. And I know, even if it's not in the end of Path of Daggers, I know that it's at the beginning of Winter's Heart, because I remember the scene where he actually grabs the two keys, and Min's like, what are you doing? And why is it so important that people think you're other places and blah, 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 blah. And he goes, because I'm going to cleanse Sidene. And again, it's just like that. You don't get more than that. She doesn't ask any questions about like how he's going to do it. She doesn't do whatever. He just says it. And that was the moment where I was like, cool, Rand.
I can't remember.
Good luck.
I'm going to have to take your word on that one. I can't remember that right now.
And then he actually...
I don't doubt it, but anyway, what I was focusing on is the bonding.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is my second favorite scene.
Yes. No, from and that book, is... And it's one of my that is definitely...
Scenes. Because you're like, final fucking link.
Oh, it's so
They all
good.
get together. They're all in the same room with Rand. And they basically, Elaine gets in, and they all confirm, and they're like, look, we all love you. And you're not going to get rid of any of us. But we would like to bond you as a warder. And he's like, well, Alana already got to me. And Elaine's like, she's pissed. And they all are to the extent that they can understand what it is. Min's kind of used to it because she's been around it for a while now. But Elaine's like, that doesn't mean that we can't bond you. And he's like, why would you want to bond someone that's just going to die? It's not going to be anything good for you, blah, blah, blah. And they're all like, shut the fuck up. We're talking shit. Yeah. So Elaine and Aviendha, they link up and they weave spirit around the three of them. They lay the weave on Rand. And now they can all feel his pain as well as his love for him. And they're all like, holy fuck, you really fucking hurt. Holy fucking fuck. They're like, but you love us. And then I'm just sitting there like, but you can feel how much fucking pain he's in. And now all you care about is how much he loves you. But Elaine's like, there's one more thing. Will you mind giving us a moment? And Min and Aviendha just kind of like, okay, and leave. Like they don't know what the fuck's about to happen. Oh, no. They do, but they're kind of like, eh.
No, they do. They know exactly what's it. Elaine is like, he owes me, and they're like,
and they've got that nice little like leave off scene where Elaine's
you're
like,
right.
Rand, help me take off my dress, and he's like, huh? So Min and Aviendha leave. There's two guards that say some shit about Elaine's tape. Oh, yeah. And because they realize that they can feel what Rand and Elaine are doing. And like, there's that moment where Min and Aviendha look at each other, and they're like, "What the fuck?" They're like, "Oh my god!"
Well, and I love how everybody in that little group can feel it, because Elaine is attached to Birgitte, and Min and Aviendha are attached to Rand, and so Birgitte's like, hey, how about you guys tell me what's going on? And then they're like, never you know what's going on. And she's like,
feels like way out in fucking nowhere. And you know,
great.
Rand at some point has to be just kind of laughing. Because you know, Alana's just out of nowhere starting to get hot and bothered from what she feels. And she's like, no. But
yeah, she even kind of says a little bit about it in actually, I think it's in this book. Yeah, no, because later on in the book, after this happens, after they bond him, he goes to Farmatting with Nynaeve and Olivia and, you know, a number of other people. And he knows that Farmatting is a place where people can't channel. And so he's sort of safe from the Ashaman that tried to kill him at the end of the last book. And so he goes there to make it so that there's not this big, like, power fight. He goes there so that he can kill them with swords because he doesn't want to break the world, basically. And while he's there, Cadsuane shows up with Varen and Alana. And Alana finds him in Farmatting, and she gives him a piece of her mind, and he's like, Alana, fuck
you
off.
Yeah.
You literally, like, raped me. And so anything that happens after this point is your fault. Like, any bad shit that happens to you because of what you did to me is on you, not me. I get to fuck Elaine.
So there's also
and you get to deal with it.
Has well, for one, she tries Elaine's suggestion of blocking the feelings, but it doesn't work for Min, but it works for Aviendha, which is hilarious in its own right. So trying to distract herself, Min is like, I had a viewing, and she literally says she'll get with child from this, two of them, a boy and a girl, both healthy and strong, which is basically saying he's not pulling out. She's going to get pregnant, and she's going to have 2 kids from this. So after today, she's pregnant.
Yep.
And then...
Yep. It's also funny because they, like, talk about the fact that they go at it twice. Like, it literally says it in the book. And you're like, he didn't pull out at a time, I bet. I don't think that he got her double pregnant. I think that he just got her natural pregnant and then...
Can I get a double twins?
But, like, they did it... Can I get a double shot?
But that's when we also learned that Min has had a viewing with Aviendha that she would have Rand's children as well. 4 of them at one fucking time. But something was odd about that.
Yep.
That the babies would be healthy, but there was still something odd.
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, you're having a litter of children. That's fucking odd.
Well, and my favorite part about this is that Avienda and Min and Brigida, well, actually, just Avienda and Brigida, remember Min's viewing about Elaine, but they don't remember what she said was going to be the sex of the children, or that there was going to be 2 of them. They keep on saying that they remember that Min said she was going to get pregnant from this and that she was going to have Rand's baby. But for the whole rest of this book, she definitely only thinks there's 1, because neither Avienda or Brigida can remember that Min said that there were going to be 2 and that there was going to be a boy and a girl. And they completely forget.
Oh, yeah.
That Min says that Avienda's going to get pregnant too. They literally just absolutely lose that part. Because we as the audience hear Min say it, and we can remember because we weren't drunk. Maybe, I guess, depending on how you read the book. But they are so sloshed that they don't even remember Min saying that Avienda's going to have Rand's kids too.
Oh, yeah.
And then she's going to have a lot of them.
You gave up the spear to get stabbed by something far more dangerous.
This
is also where
Sex Igloo 2
coming inside a theater near you. So Min also recognizes Brigida, and Brigida's like, "No, Brigida's dead." And Min's like,
"Yep,
I'm not fucking dumb." And then Brigida's like, "Well, like, you shut off your legs like a feather dancer." And Brigida is livid that Elaine is finally getting some. Because she's like, she's always so proper, blah, blah, blah. And it takes Min and Avienda to finally convince her to let her fuck. Like, just let her fuck, we're going to go drink. And Brigida's like, but she shouldn't be there. Like, the D is already in the P.
Yep.
Leave her alone. We've all had it. Let her enjoy her ride on the Dragon Scepter.
Yep.
And move on. Let her sheath the sword, all right?
Well, and I love that, right? And I love the situation there, because she's like, motherfucker is not gonna have sex while I'm in her head or while she's in mine. And then Min and Avienda are like, Brigida, chill. Like, this is gonna happen. And Brigida's like, no, I don't want it to happen. Stop it right now. And then Avienda's like, you know, I've got this Usquai stuff. And Brigida's like, I've not heard of that. What's in it? And she's like, it'll get you drunk very fast. Don't worry what's in it. And Brigida's like,
you had me at drunk.
You had me at drunk very fast.
So Elaine wakes up the next morning.
I actually really like that one.
Hopefully in cleaner sheets. Maybe somehow they changed them in the middle of the night.
And Rand is
probably not. And she wakes up the next morning. Well, I mean, she would have been a virgin. But again, he didn't
pull out, so it's probably still relatively clean.
Maybe they used a different corner of the bed for that part. Who knows? I wouldn't want to sleep in that. I mean, to be honest with you.
I mean, to be fair, this is also a world where girls go horseback riding a lot, and that'll usually take care of that.
That's true.
Not always.
That's true.
Definitely not always. But at the same time,
it's not messy. I mean, shit drips.
A situation where
it's still a liquid, sir.
I mean, you're right.
Once upon a time, I said, "Who wants to join on a podcast?" And now here we are talking about the reality of sex.
Indeed.
But, yeah, Rand is gone. He left her a a golden lily in full bloom, which she weaves what they call a keeping around, which is a weave that she learned from Ogidian, which will allow the flower to stay fresh forever. She is an absolute euphoria waking up after finally getting the D from the D's D. But she learns out that Olivia,
Correct.
Nynaeve, and Lan have vanished. The Ken, Ida, and the Windfinders are pissed.
And she is
And that
pissed.
Nynaeve and Olivia and Lan took the most powerful Angreal, which was the bracelet and rings that we learned about in Path of Daggers, Chapter 4, and some Terra Angreal. This is a jewelry set that we learn about later on in Chapter 32 of this book from the Evodari stash, which I believe
Correct.
the bracelet and rings act as a reservoir for Sidair. Is it?
The belt does.
Let me.
The rings and the bracelet do something else. I don't actually remember exactly what it is that they do, but I do know that the belt is the
description of the bracelet and rings doesn't say shit. It says a female Angreal in the form of a bracelet connected to 4 rings that can be fastened on with a lock and a tiny key. It is a relatively powerful Angreal, so maybe it might just be one of those that allows you to draw more of the power.
Well, yeah, no. That one's an Angreal. She takes a number of other things, including the belt. The belt is a well. And then there are a couple of other things that Cadsuane tells Nynaeve how to use when they're off feeling the power again because it doesn't exist in Farmatting. And she comes back and she's really excited about finding out about like what all these Terra Angreal do and whatnot. And then Rand makes the connection because, I mean, she's not very... Cadsuane isn't very shy to Nynaeve and tells her that or at least at one or more of her hair ornaments is also a well. And Rand's like, oh shit, I need to be a lot more careful how I act about Cadsuane.
So I've got it up.
She can use the power.
The jewelry set is meant to be worn together and used for defense. One of the items, a ring with a pale green stone, and when activated, it detects Sidair and Sidene within a 3-mile radius. Another of the Terra Angreal, which is the jeweled belt, is a well, and it can be filled with Sidair and then drawn upon. A bracelet with red stones provides armor better than steel.
Yep.
The jewelry set is a set of linked matching Terra Angreal consisting of a finger ring, a belt of leather and gold set with gems, a bracelet set with gems complementing the belt, and a gem-studded necklace that matches them both. They're both thought to be the adornments of Verlin Shah Rael, an Aes Sedai from the time of the breaking. The effects of individual items are given below. When all the adornments are worn together, the effects below are magnified. The belt increases the wearer's resistance to attack. The bracelet increases damage dealt by attacks against Shadow Spawn. The ring provides a resistance to the powers of Shadow Spawn. The necklace increases the damage caused by all weaves used to enter Shadow Spawn, Dark Friends, and other servants of the Shadow. And some records say that Verlin Shah Rael created a second set of adornments with additional powers, but if so, they were not among the Evodar horde. That sounds like I just read a D&D item.
I was literally thinking that. I was like, did you get that out of the Encyclopedia for Wheel of Time? Or
Actually, that the information about what the belt and all that does is from the Wheel of Time role-playing game. Yeah, it's additional information from the Wheel of Time RPG.
Oh, really?
So that's not what it does in the actual
that makes more sense
book series, but that's what it does in the RPG.
Well, actually, I think they do talk about the bracelet doing something like that in the actual book. Not the rest of it in terms of like if you wear it as a set and like increasing damage to Shadow Spawn or anything. But I'm pretty sure that they do actually describe the ring being able to detect power usage.
But the Wheel of Time role-playing game
bracelet was making armor.
written and published by Wizards of the Coast. That was the one that Robert Jordan was a consultant, but generally his level of input was only,
Correct.
no, you cannot have ninjas and clerics in my world. Which again is like, goddamn. But yeah. So that's what the jewelry set was.
But yeah. Indeed. So while they're in Farmatting, Rand actually does confront two of the Ashaman that were there, and that tried to kill him. And he actually does manage to kill one, mostly because he's a better swordsman, partially because of luck. And then he gets sort of set upon by another of the Ashaman, and convinces him that he doesn't want to fight right then because the guards are coming, and he runs off and gets murdered by Isam, who we also know as Lord Luke.
Yeah.
And he stabs him with he slices him with a basically power or dark power wrought dagger, and he gangrenes to death.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty fucking disgusting. You're just like,
and it's pretty gross.
What a horrible way to go. It's very cold blooded.
Yeah. But before this book is over, we definitely see Rand get very frustrated as the other Ashaman are not coming quickly enough, or they've decided that they're not coming at all, or whatever. We're not actually really given full information as far as why this didn't work, though. I mean, again, I don't want to spoil anything later, but it is strongly suggested as to why they don't come. But he decides that he can't wait for them anymore, because things are happening in the world very quickly. And he leaves Farmatting with Cadsuane and a number of the other sisters that are with them, as well as the warders and the Ashaman that they brought with them, who they've actually bonded now, which is...
Yeah.
Well, everybody but Alana. He actually does not take Alana with him because he sends her back to Camelin and then to Tyr, along with a little bit of a contingent. But he does take everybody else. And they go to just outside of Shadar Logoth and sit on a mountaintop with Nynaeve and Rand facing each other with the male and female keys to the Chodan Call, and start this process of channeling an absolutely absurd amount of Saidin and Saidar.
Remember what happens after they get there, after Rand weaves the gateway and they all get there. Because while there, he can sense the true source again as well. Yeah. Rand is able to sense the true source again, and that's what causes him to see Saidin. After they leave Farmatting via the Camelin Gate, and Nynaeve heals his bruises and Lan's broken arm. All right. Yeah. He rides with the 5 other Aes Sedai sworn to him, and Cadsuane, Olivia, and the Sea Folk, and Varen, and the 4 who are Cadsuane's companions. Nynaeve brings the access keys, and then Rand is able to sense the true source again and sees the side. What? I think that's a typo. Never mind. That's the one power. Okay, that's a typo.
My bad. It's not the true source. That was a typo. He's just able to sense the one power again. With the gateway, it goes to... Yeah, because he's never able to...
That's my bad. That was a typo on what I was reading.
Other people are.
But something that is interesting, the thing I initially meant before I saw that start
channeling
was that when he releases Saidin, after they come to the gateway, and he releases Saidin once they've all arrived, he sees a vague image of a face that he almost recognizes, which we know who it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which has been happening more and more recently to him, but he did leave behind while in Farmatting. But so far, every time he has either grabbed onto or let go of Sidene, he sees this very vague face, and he starts being able to make it out more and more and more.
Nope,
which
you
we
can figure
won't
it
give
out,
away who it is because it's not in
we're
this
not gonna give.
book.
But yes, so
You
Nynaeve
can,
does initiate the link with
but it's not in
Rand,
this
and then
book.
passes control back to him, and Rand forms the conduit out of Sidar and begins funneling Sidene through it and into Shadar Logoth, and thus begins all kinds of fuckery.
Yes. Yeah. And at that point, Cadsuane at least knows that this is going to be a giant beacon in the sky calling anyone and everyone who can channel either Sidene or Sidar to them to try and figure out A, what's going on, and B, stop it. And so the all of them, all of the channelers who are there break off into groups, and the Olivia actually goes off by herself, just with the bracelet and the rings, because she is by far the most powerful there. Yeah, right.
Yep.
And then everybody else breaks off into little groups of 3 and form circles. And Narishma,
he is linked with Elza,
is carrying
Marissa, which is important to note later.
Yep.
Because it is not Narishma that leads the circle. It is
Yes,
Elza.
it is.
Elza is leading the circle.
No, it's not. Which, as we know already from books prior to this, is a really good thing. Because if Narishma was controlling the circle, Kalendor would be like, hey, fuck you. But as long as one of the women who are linked with Narishma is controlling the link, is controlling the circle, then they're okay. Because Kalendor's flaw is then effectively
we have an interesting point of view from Bar Melon, who was on his way to the Nine Rings Inn in Tremoncian to sell Maglin Madwin his plum brandy. And as he passes the excavation site that we've seen several books ago, he's a giant statue there shining like the sun. And he turns his mare, Nisa, and drives back to his farm in fucking terror. Yep. Then there's the point of view
drinks
from
heavily
Timna,
all of the stuff he was going to sell.
Disturbed as she walks in the fields of Tremelking. She is troubled that the Athan mare still refuse the waterway. Even the governors have left to pursue their Cormor. And suddenly she sees the giant statue glowing like the sun. She sits down and smiles, thinking that she might see the fulfillment of prophecy and the end of illusion. So we get 2 point of views from the 2 actual beyond Saw Angrial that the Axis keys are linked to.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Sangreal.
Angrial. Yeah. So, and this is where we see Sindane do, which means last chance in Old Tongue, which I believe. Yeah, I was about to say, I believe we already know by now that this is Lanfear reincarnated and mind trapped by Moradin.
Correct. Or at least, I mean, like, this is the part where if you haven't figured it out yet,
found a woman to use
they can't spell it out for you any further.
What the fuck? I thought you loved me. But then again, you fucked that Avienda bitch, didn't you?
Yeah. And now, unbeknownst to me, you actually had sex with all 3 of those women.
Too, and they're all, as strong, if not strong. Yeah. They're not fucking crazy, all right? They don't chase.
They're all better.
Could you
than
imagine running like getting in a relationship, breaking it off, running away from the relationship, dying, being reincarnated, and the same woman still comes and tracks you to fuck down? Let's be honest.
Oh, and then even better than that, you are there, you have a relationship, you go, nah, I'm okay. You break up, she still follows you around, you die, you come back to life, being reborn into another body. She comes back, she's like, hey, we were in love. You go, nah, I'm good. She dies, gets reincarnated, and is like, I'm still coming after you. And you're like, dude, both of us have died.
Then we get really Cat Swain, who is holding the shield that protects the top of the hill that Rand and Nynaeve are focusing, that are working from. And the ter'angreal and angreal that she's wearing in her hair is called the Paralis Net. So it has intertwined golden crescents, which is a ter'angreal that grows cool when someone nearby holds side air. It has an 8-pointed star, which is a ter'angreal that vibrates when there's a man who can channel nearby. There's the golden hummingbird, a ter'angreal that is her version of the well that can hold side air. There's a shrike, which this description only says a female angreal, but the chapter summary refers to it. Where is it? I was just reading it. It's just an angreal, yeah, that allows her to pull more of side air, and that's what basically allows her to maintain the shield. And the last part,
yep, because there's no way she actually would have been able to.
And the last part is the golden swallow, a ter'angreal that was made during the break-in specifically to detect a man channeling alone, but it detects the direction of side in or side R, but does not distinguish the two and does not tell the distance. Which, it's funny that we're talking about the Paralis Net, and that the Wheel of Time RPG talks about there being a second set of the adornments of whatever her name was that I can't remember right now, that we talked about earlier. Yeah, it starts with a Verlin something.
Yeah, I lost it.
Or something like that. And this sounds like not a carbon copy, but if someone like Elaine tried to make a copy set of a set of essentially battle combined ter'angreal for defense, it sounds like it. Not to mention, I mean, that's kind of a cool name, the Paralis Net, Paralis.
Yeah,
like it's pretty and it's fucking terrifying. I mean, not compared to what's being channeled next to it.
Yeah. Well, and of course, she uses it so well in this fight that they have, because she's basically stuck on the hilltop holding this shield together over the hilltop so that no one can get to Rand from a distance. And then she is standing there telling everybody else what direction gateways are showing up as the Forsaken all enter this fray and start to try and get to the hilltop where she's created the shield and where Rand and Nynaeve are cleansing the
she points
or the
Elza and the circle with Narishma and Marisa towards where she feels, because there's lightning striking the shield, and she points to where she feels it coming from, and they just shoot fountains of fire with Kalendor. They're just like, fuck you and everything potentially around you in the nearby vicinity of where the fuck ever we want to hit.
God, can you imagine?
The sad part is
there was
the way it's written. You know, there's one. Well, actually, no, we're being shot or Logoth. You know, there can't. There's no way. Nobody wants to live that close to that place.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Which is why it actually makes it kind of nice. Because you know that when it comes right down to it, there very well may be a person or two, or maybe even a family in this general vicinity. But of course, it doesn't talk about them getting hurt at all. It doesn't guarantee that there's actually anybody there. And all of this takes place far away from civilization that isn't long dead. And so it is definitely set up in a very sort of feel-good way in terms of the fact that they're all just fighting each other, and nobody is really getting caught up in uh the middle of this big power channeling fight, which has not always been true. I mean, there have been a number of other battles that have been fought, especially with Rand or around Rand, where he just kind of goes nuts, and whoever's around him trying to fight him is just going nuts because they're just trying to kill each other as fast as humanly possible. And everybody else around them is just like, what is happening?
Yeah. So Damandred is there.
And probably a number of them are dying.
Like most of the other Forsaken, he's jumping from gateway to gateway to gateway to gateway. He starts to let us know that there's a shadow starting to cover the city of Shadar Logoth. And his plan was to take Rand out and take the access key from him. But he gives up on that when he's constantly getting fucking attacked everywhere he even shows up. And he's like, they must have developed Terangrial that tracks Sidene.
Yep.
And then he suddenly attacked. But he's like, who's those two women and old man? And then he realizes the old man is an Ashaman and says, fucking runs. Sindane she's running around praying that she can get to Rand first so she can see him die. And then Osengar is running around panting because he doesn't like running. And he also does not like masquerading as Corlan de Shiva. Find out now that all along the Shiva has been Osengar, one of the Forsaken. And he's also the one responsible, because Osengar is the one responsible for the creation of the Trollocs, the Murdral, and many other creatures. And he doesn't want to be here. He says he's never been a soldier, but he is terrified of Moradin and knows that if he doesn't fight, Moradin will kill him. Not even worse.
Yup. Well, and interestingly, the other thing here is that's funny. I just popped over to Osengar's thing. Strength and abilities. Among the Forsaken, Agenor, who we all know has been resurrected as Osengar, was second in strength only to Ishamael. Which means that the only person he's actually really afraid of are the dragon and Moradin, who we know is Ishamael resurrected. So, like, clearly he's scared of that guy. He's literally the only
not to mention the fact that Moradin now has
Agenor.
Access to the true source. So,
yes. And I mean, has been, I mean, at this point, it is actually still a little on the fence as far as, I mean, we never actually hear the Dark One as of yet say that Moradin is nameless, but like, it's pretty clear. And Moradin claims that it's true. And there are a couple of other people who are Lanfear as Sindane and Mogedion as Mogedion, who are pretty fucking convinced that he is nameless, and they're like, cool, so we're gonna follow your orders. And you know, everybody else sort of falls in line, even though Damandred and Osengar are definitely still trying to vie for power, but like less so. Yeah. They're not being as overt as they used to be. And we also see Osengar get
while all this is going on,
destroyed.
Varen and her circle with Chimera and Shaolon, they see a woman walking through the forest in a color-changing gown. And Varen, like, must be one of the Forsaken, tries to shield her, but the woman is too strong and turns and attacks Varen and her circle. That woman, of course, is Grendel.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go to Ibn Hopwill, who Ibn, Daigain, Nessun, and Beldine encounter a woman wandering in the woods. And Eben is astounded when he realizes that's a woman holding Sidene, and he leaps at her. This, of course, is Arangar.
Yep. Who is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Balthamel. As a woman.
Yeah. And for those of you
who still has access to Sidene.
She's considered one of the new Forsaken. Do they know who she was? Is it revealed who she was?
Correct.
In another area previously in the books. Starts with an S. Who Arangar was masquerading as. Is it revealed yet? I don't think it is. Yeah, so I'm not going to say it is the case.
I don't think so. So I would not. Yeah. Yeah. Because I don't think that is. I think we don't find that out until later.
Sidene, again, Lanfear reincarnated, sees a woman standing in the woods, prepares in case she's a wilder. And as soon as the woman sees a Sidair, she sends a ball of fire at her. When it reaches the woman, however, the web just comes apart. And Sidene thinks it must be some kind of Terangrial that she's never heard of. The woman attacks.
But instead, it's actually just Olivia.
This is her trying to rationalize it. And this is where we find out that Olivia is stronger than Lanfear was before she was held by the Alfin and the Elfin. But all that Lanfear can think, or Sindane can think, is, well, she must have an Angreal too. And she fights back, still determined to see Lews Therin die. But I think, actually, no, yeah, she does. She has the
Yep. Yeah. Which she's half right, because she does have an Angreal. But
yeah.
She is also just
is still running around like a spider in the area. She can feel Morden stroking her mind trap or Corsuvra. She can see the huge flattened dome of black above Shadar Logoth. And she's like, I don't really give a shit who lives and dies as long as it's not me, but I would love to see Grendel or Sindane die. And she retreats back to the top of the hilltop.
Well, and of course, I mean, like, do remember that one of the reasons, and they go over this in the book, Grandal, Lanfear, Moghedien, Messana, who I don't actually think is in this fight at all, because she's not under Moradin's thumb at this point. Basically, all of the female Forsaken care about stopping this.
Yep.
Because Moradin has told them to. But they don't actually care overall. The male Forsaken care a lot. Because if Rand is successful in cleansing Sidene, then they don't have as much basically incentive to be on the side of the shadow anymore. And the Dark One knows that. And so if this is allowed to happen, he will trust them even less than he already does. And that is a very small number to begin with. And so they are desperate to make sure that the taint on Sidene stays. All of the female channelers are like, we don't use Sidene. We don't give a fuck. Like, we care, again, as I said, because Moradin has told us to do this, but, like, we are completely unaffected by this. The Dark One trusts us as much as he's going to, and given that there is no taint on our half of the power, that's not going to change. And so Moghedien is definitely like, ugh, I want to do this because Moradin says I need to, and I would really like to see Lanfear or Grendel die. But at the same time, I'm really not good at fighting, so I'm just going to stay on this hill for a while. Whereas, like, Demandred and Osengar and Deshiva are all like, dude, this needs to stop.
Osengar makes it to the top of a hill and sees Narishma holding Kalandor and sees Rand. And he's like, well, if I can kill Althor and take Kalendor, then I'll be nameless. So he starts the Balefire. And this is
Mm-hmm.
where Elza
And before he
draws on
can do it,
Kalendor and vaporizes the top 50 feet of the hill that Othrangar is standing on. But we also learn in this stroke
it's so amazing
that she regrets fighting the Chosen, but she is sure the Great Lord will understand. So we learn that Elza is actually Black Aja. So then it switches to Mogideon, who doesn't feel any more channeling except for the access keys. She's like, okay, finally the battle's over. And then that big black dome was above, well, big flat black thing that was above Shadow Logoth is now a black dome that's 2 miles high. And suddenly it collapses in on itself and vanishes.
And it
the
explodes.
wind howls, filling the void, and lifts her ass in the air. And she's like, if I fucking survive, I will never be scared again. Yeah.
Liar.
Oh, yeah. It's just.
And Shatter Logoth is just gone. That's like my favorite part of this is the Rand is like, all right, cool. So I'm going to put all of the taint into Shadar Logoth that's already dealing with Mashadar. And then they're basically just going to eat each other. Oh, Shadar Logoth's gone. Never mind. Okay, yeah. They eat each other. But great. I'm so smart.
In the aftermath, Catwain does examine the female access key that is now melted and broken. And it is confirmed that the female Choden call on Tremble King has also been destroyed. The male access key finds its way to her saddlebags along with Kalendor. Land comes back from where he's been after they see the huge hole in the forest where Shadar Logoth used to be, like he said. And he goes to Nynaeve, menacing with Rand, and Catwain tells him that Corel has already checked them both. They're unconscious, but they'll recover on their own. The wounds on Rand's side are unchanged. The wounded get healed. Serene is in shock from her near-death experience. Varen and Shalom pray over the body of Chimera, who died in the battle. Daigain weeps over Eben, who was killed as well. And Jahar and Damir say that Saidin is clean, but Cadsuane is like, is the taint really gone, though? Yeah.
And they're like, yes.
So Catsuane's like, as soon as the warders return, we're leaving. She's like, but now that I have Rand, I'm not going to lose him. And then it goes into the end where it talks about on the island of Tremble King, on the island of Tremble King, word spreads that the time of illusions is at an end. And that concludes Winter's Heart.
Yep.
So Rand is now bonded to his 3 girlfriends / baby mamas. Saidin has been cleansed. Shatter Logoth has been destroyed. The female access key and Choden Call have been destroyed. Osangar / Deshiva is revealed. Well, Deshiva is revealed to be Osangar forsaken and destroyed, vaporized by a fellow Whisper of the Shadow. Kind of hilariously.
It really is.
And we just get to see a lot of the Forsaken come together and just wholeheartedly, soundly, collectively get their asses fucking whooped. Like so many show up to fucking fight.
Which is so fun.
Grendel, Mogideon, Osangar, Lanfear reincarnated. They all show up because they're like, we're going to fight. Demondred. And they don't do they do fuck all. I mean, they do kill. They do kill a couple,
yeah. That's not really. I mean, they do kill a couple of the people who are there, but as much as not enough to do anything.
They don't really kill anybody that's important.
Yeah. As I said, they do kill a couple of people, but not enough to matter.
Is now cleansed. and it's a wonderful end to the book, I think. Because now you're like, okay, well, now there's hope for all the men that can channel. That whatever insanity they're at should theoretically be where they stay at. They shouldn't grow any more insane. And anyone else that channels or learns to channel saidin should not be insane, which is also good news for Rangar as well.
Yep.
Not more to talk about that. I don't know how long we're at.
And there you go.
With the break I had to take, but it's roughly about 2 hours. So probably want to be in about an hour and a half by the time editing is done. But doggos, indeed, as always, at the end of the recording need to go out, I'm sure. But before that, any final thoughts or anything we want to say?
I really like this one. This one's a great book. I think so much happens in this book, and it's a nice little bit of, or a nice mix of foundation and action sequences. That this is definitely one of my favorites. Because just again, it doesn't feel like there's really a dull moment. Now, granted, I will admit that part of that is I enjoy the things that a number of other people think are dull. But at the same time, I am a huge fan of this particular book. It is fun, it is entertaining, and I think that it is that way from start to finish.
To me, going through the summary of Winter's Heart,
I like this one.
This makes it one of the better books. It has a fair balance of world building, exposition on different characters and their lives and cultures, which I guess falls into the world building, as well as exciting events and action sequences. It's to me, it's a really good balance when you look at it overall in a summary. I mean, looking at it from this overall point of view, the whole arc and time with Perrin, it does still, it feels like it's a lot, but I think it's more from the overall exposure from the series from it, because it's really only 8.5% from Perrin, chapters 1, 2, 5, and 6, and then Fael at 4.82% with chapters 3 and 4, which really out of 35 chapters isn't that much, really. It's just more of an annoying story arc that I think
it's not.
It's just more annoying for us. And I think it's worse in the next book, honestly.
Correct.
I'm pretty sure it is.
You're not wrong. I do also think that part of the reason that this one is so the problem with Perrin's POV in this particular story is really, in my opinion, as you just said, the fact that there's so much else going on that's really interesting, and then you hit a Perrin chapter and you're just like, and screeching halt. Great. Okay. And that's always really unfortunate when you're reading a book that's really entertaining and there are, not terribly long, but significant swaths of time or words or whatever that are not fun to read. And you're just like, all right, can we be done with this? But as you said, overall, definitely like this book. It's a super fun one, and it is definitely one that is up there in really terms of books.
And I'm going to say the next 4 books of the series, considering that Crossroads of Twilights is a simultaneous book. And most of it happens at the same time as Winter's Heart. So in terms of chronology, it does do a really good job of setting up the next 4 books. The 4 event books, whatever you want to call it, chronologically of the series. Which, of course, with that has to come Crossroads of Twilight, helping it do so in some respects, but we'll talk about that more. The first release of October,
in a month,
unless something else happens. Hurricanes, sickness,
indeed,
balefire, those kind of things. Your normal natural disasters.
I mean, hopefully none of those, because we all know that all of those are fake.
If you've watched the new Godzilla movie, you know it's just a monster. Something real. It's just a giant 3-headed Hydra. All right, it's not really a hurricane. Yep. It's a 3-headed lightning monster from outer space. Yeah, something more believable than
perfect
temperatures and air currents and that other hogwash that scientists make us believe. Hashtag hurricanes or government surveillance drones. It's the
disguised as
it's a ploy of the, and it's all done by lobbying insurance companies to increase their need to be around. Yeah.
You know what? I believe it. Awesome. Well, thank you all so very much for listening to our book review here of Winter's Heart. If you would like to say anything to us about how good the episode was, how bad the episode was, what we missed talking about, what we talked about too much, whatever feedback you have, please come and comment on our Discord, on our Twitter, on our Podbean, or shoot us an email. All of our links are on the Podbean. If you haven't found a good way to listen to a podcast yet, I highly recommend it. If you do have a good one, still pop over there for our links. And definitely let us know what we're doing well and what you'd like to see more of. But for all of us here at the Black Tower Podcast, I have been Daniel.
Not a threat.
And we will see you next week.